Today's agenda is I'll be walking through some presentations. So first of all, you should know how website making works on a basic level to navigate the different website making providers. And you should know how to make websites with WordPress, since it's one of the cheapest and it's a quite simple way to make websites. Yeah, it's a good way in my opinion. And then you should know a little bit about data privacy, which Erik will talk about later. And then I'm of course going to plug our association. And this association is basically supposed to be sort of like an owner, distributor, and developer of tools and knowledge. Basically, there's tons of different types of associations trying to solve societal issues. But through this association, I personally believe that you can best solve societal issues by empowering the individual to solve them themselves. And other associations that I've been a part of and contributing to don't tackle this at the systemic level as much as I would like. So for me and for others, and for hopefully even more people further down the line, this association is supposed to be an extra association or a third association to put in those efforts that maybe might be too dry or might not suit more local organizations to tackle empowerment on a more systemic level, because there's not enough being done for empowerment on the individual. So we do that today through hosting this website making course, which is paid for by FIFON, a grant, and members of our association get access to the website making tools that we own. And we use that knowledge of our volunteers to host a study platform that, instead of publishing content for students, helps students publish their own content. And website making is important for associations and for businesses. This was our website a while ago. It's when it was first started, and it's been a part of the association since. And this is our website now, where we host a website making platform. And website making tools are continuing to develop, and our association will continue to develop. So it's becoming easier and easier to do more and more online. And people are doing too little online, in my opinion. So first, some motivation. These are some websites that I personally have made for some of our members. This is a website where my granddad sells his wooden bowls. And then there's a website for Helga Engs, which is an association in the building we're right now, that does a festival for students. And then there's a website for a boat servicing company. And there's a default website on WordPress. And then this is a website for my employer as of right now. It's gotten a little bit more time into it. But already there's some learning to take away from these motivational pictures. And you wouldn't guess that the website for the boat servicing company and the website for the association took the same amount of time. But the association already had a vision for what their design should be, so creating it, recreating it as a functional website took much less time, while the boat servicing company didn't have complete vision for the website, so it took more time to both create the vision and the website. Design and development are two different tasks, and you can't multitask. This website turned out better in less time than, this website turned out better in the same time versus this website. And really, the website had to be designed first. So when it comes to website making, you should first of all know that design and development can and should be separated, because you can't physically multitask. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how the internet works and what files your website consists of. Even though you won't be doing any coding, it's good to know what you would have someone else do for you, or what you have abstracted away. So it's just going to be a lot of jargon, but it will help you do research on the internet. Basically, the internet is a network of networks connecting computers together. And it does that through two protocols, TCP and IP, where TCP is the packaging and IP is the address of a computer. So on that internet, you have three main files. You have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, where what they do is part of their name. So it's really easy to remember if you know what their name is. HTML is a markup language. You use it to mark up the layout of your website through tags. And CSS is a style sheet language. You use it to denote how your website should be presented through properties that are put on those HTML tags. And then JavaScript is the only actual programming language which you can derive from the word script in JavaScript, because it's a scripting language. It doesn't have to be compiled before you can run it. Your browser can run JavaScript. So what happens when you put a website on the internet is that you put these three main files through yet another protocol that's called HTTP into the TCP, and you send it to another computer, and that computer takes out those files again. And in this relationship, there's a host and a client, where the host is the computer serving those files, and the client is the computer receiving those files. So if you've heard these words before, now you know what they refer to. And your computer can also act as a host when you're playing online video games and such. So these are the roles of the computers on the internet. So what happens if you want to put the website on the internet is that you need to have a host. And you need to have a way to be reached. So you need to have a computer on the internet that's serving your website, and you need to be able to be found on the internet. Now the way you're found is through the domain name system, which is what DNS stands for, which turns a domain name, which is google.com, and an abstraction of your IP address, into the actual IP of a computer that you can reach on the internet. So when you buy a domain, you buy the rights to that domain, and you get access to what's called an authoritative name server. A name server that tells all of the other servers, all of the other computers in the domain name system how your domain name should be translated. So if you own yourname.com, you're telling the domain name system that yourname.com should point to your computer. And to get a website, you get to get a host, you get a host through a hosting provider. So you're basically borrowing access to a computer. And to get a domain, you register a domain with a domain registrar. And these two roles can be had by the same company, but they don't have to, which is good to know when companies are trying to sell you a website and a domain name as a complete package. Because if you want to have several services online, you can and perhaps should have all your domain names at one company, and then instead buy different services from different companies. So none of these roles are separate. And a fun fact is that it's actually an organization called the World Wide Web, or called the Internet Organization or something, that gives other organizations down the hierarchy the competency to have different domain names. And these domain names can be given with different conditions. So that's why you'll find that domain names with different endings, like .no, .com, will have different conditions, maybe different pricing. And so as we continue with website making with WordPress, I want you to notice where WordPress was in this map. WordPress is just a program running on the host that you rent through a hosting provider, or that you provide yourself if you're really techy. So now we're moving into website making. WordPress has two flavors, which is why you might have heard of WordPress before and be confused when I tell you that it's free. So WordPress at its base is an open source application, and it's free to use, and WordPress's mission is to democratize publishing. It's supported by a profit-making company, but it's licensed as open source. While WordPress.com is a service where I think it would be weird if it was not the same company, but where the same company is selling you both hosting and installation of WordPress and features as a package, where it's simpler for you, but you have to pay more. So WordPress can be cheap if you do more yourself, but you might have heard of it through you might have heard of it as more of a paid service. But at its base, it's basically just a web publishing tool. So it helps you publish stuff online. It being open source and free to use means several companies are contributing to WordPress all the time, and has a lot of updates, which is why a course like this is good, because now if you watch this not many months later from when it was recorded, or if you're here live, you'll have up-to-date information, because several times a year WordPress gets updated, and recently it's become really powerful, which is why it excites me a lot. So WordPress basically went from this, which was now I think 1.5 years ago, where you could just do basic customization of the main most abstracted part of your website, to total no coding required editing access to your complete site and managing of the different parts of your site. And recently it's become, you've gotten access to even more parts and better ways to manage your website. And this abstraction of basically everything on your website makes everything editable, which is why you don't need to know code, and it's to use WordPress, and it's a good entry point. But even if you do know code, WordPress's main strength is that it is a web content management system. Other website makers are also content management systems in a way. You need to know how a website maker is a content management system for you, because your website is all about your content. And the way WordPress manages your content is that pages are not called pages, they're called posts, and each post has a post type. So you've abstracted templates, which decide how your post type should look, and then post types that are connected to those templates. And post types and templates each contain blocks, which are the lowest denominator of elements. It's like your basic element. And then your post types can have taxonomies, attributes, and lots of metadata connected to them that makes them useful in different ways. And then your templates can have template parts, which are shared parts between your templates, like your header and your footer. So what this allows you to do is separate several types of content in terms of functionality and looks. So out of the box, you get posts and pages as different post types, where your posts, they have categories and keywords, so they're suitable for blog posts, while your pages, they have hierarchy, and of course they have a different look since they have a different template, which makes them suitable for about you pages and pages that shouldn't be part of an article library. And then both pages and posts templates have the same header and footer template parts, which are shared between the two. Now that you understand what happens to your content, you need to know how to edit that content. So content being separated means that there's several states of editing. Now it would be great if you could just drag and drop to everything in the same place, not have several states of editing, but that's also one of the strengths. So there's a difference between what's being called edit site and edit content. So when you're editing your site, you're editing your templates, which apply for all of your posts and all of your pages. But when you're editing a post or editing a page, you're editing what I would call it the content, the main content. And each post and each template can contain blocks and patterns. Where blocks are your building blocks for the most basic blocks are just abstractions of HTML tags, like the paragraph tag has a paragraph block, but they can also be more complicated. And patterns are just pre-configured layouts of blocks for you to more quickly put your page together. And what happens when you create a website with blocks is that you very quickly get blocks within blocks within blocks, where you might have a column and a column with a group with a citation block with a paragraph block within it. So you should really quickly, if you're revisiting these slides or learning at home, go and use the list view, which gives you a view of how your blocks are related to each other. But a good consolement is that at least it's easier than coding. But of course, there's nothing wrong with you coding on top of this. It means that creating what's what's simple is easy and quick, and then you can focus your time on what's more difficult to achieve. In addition, you have themes and plugins, where themes are what contain your templates. So you can switch out your templates for different looks, and your themes can have attached to them the styles and settings for your site, and they may add some functionality. And then plugins are just basically functionality adders. So these extend your site. Now, finding good themes basically means finding block themes, and there are not that many, so you should filter for them. That's all you need to know. As long as you have a block theme, you will be able to edit everything. If you don't, you won't. And these are new as of 1.5 years ago, so most of the themes that people are making are not block themes. When it comes to finding good plugins, it's easier to give simple advice. So basically, you find yourself in a battle between paid and free plugins, and at least you can find a plugin or pay someone to make a plugin for you, or pay for a plugin if you need something done and don't want to do it yourself. But some good plugins that we use is Fathom Analytics, which is an analytics tool that doesn't require a cookie banner like Google Analytics, and Smash Balloon, which makes it easier to embed social media in more advanced ways, and then all-in-one WordPress migration, which makes it easy to export and import your site when exporting and importing all of your files and your database too, so you don't have to think about exporting and importing. It's much easier. And then we have a fun plugin that's called User Drive that embeds Google Drive, which can be useful for if you have clients for your photography business or your business and you want to show them files on your Google Drive, but only certain files to certain clients. But we use it for our study platform. And then you need to use a plugin like Rank Math or another plugin that does search engine optimization for you, basically telling Google that you exist and how you exist so that you show up in search results. And sticking with WordPress will make sure that your website is all about the content. But if your website is not all about the content, if you know that for this foreseeable future you will only have one page for your website, maybe something like Wix or some other tool is good for you. But then again, it would be weird to pay a lot of money for a tool like Wix when you just have a simple website. So I would recommend at least trying out WordPress for a little while, because if you make sure that your website is all about the content, then your website is going to be all about the content. And in the end, in my experience, the content is what your users are looking for. So when you create stuff online, you need to care about data privacy. So Erik is going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Welcome, Erik.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right, so this is the section of the privacy, and I have a slide or two here. I'll push the down button. Basically, I borrowed this from the Data Protection Agency in Norway and translated myself to English. And basically it says, and I'm going to use this one, I'm going to prepare it, but you have a responsibility to sort of
first of all, if you're a company, right?
Company or organization all have to follow the principles of privacy. And the first, that you have to have a full overview of what sort of personal or privacy data you have. Name, address, telephone number, or more and more sensitive and protectworthy data. And you have to have that before you start using it. So at the planning stage, you need to take care of that. So if you want to have personal information on your web pages, make sure that you figure out what it is. And you're responsible for documenting that you have it. So in addition to using it and whatever, you have to maintain some documents of what you have and where to use it. And there will be sanctions if you don't have that. And therefore, when you make web pages, you are responsible for what sort of data you collect and what sort of data you share with others. And the fact that you don't know that you share it is not a good excuse. Because if you make a web page, you should know what you're doing. And the risk is that if you make a web page and you take all those plugins and you do all these things and you don't check who you're sharing the data with, the risk is that you'll end up all over the internet. And therefore, I've got a friend on LinkedIn that has helped me to give some good advices on some good web pages that you can fill in. And let's see here, if we take one of them, VG, the national newspaper, if you run it through one of them, you can see they share the data in this sort of thing. So therefore, it's sort of if you were responsible for the web pages of Vega, you would probably look into and see, you know, what sort of data in detail do we send down there, because Vega is responsible for that and making sure that it's all okay. It's now this is then a cut from current affairs recently, and I think within the recent week or whatever. This is an example of a pharmacy, a web pharmacy, sharing data about health products, Viagra, chlamydia cream, or whatever, and sharing it with Meta Pixels or Facebook Pixel. Is it Meta?
Yeah, sharing it with Facebook through Facebook Pixel.
Exactly. And the problem there is that, of course, that's sort of sensitive information and should not be published like that. And even though, you know, they claim that people have consented to it, it's sort of questionable whether that's an informed consent or not, because, you know, it's easy to say yes, but that doesn't mean you understand what you said yes to, because there's a load of documents behind that, you know, several volumes, and no human person will be able to read that legalese to that extent and understanding the implication of it. So that's a good example of a bad example of how data should not be shared. And the previous slide is, you know, showing how to make sure that, you know, you know where the leaks are.
Perfect.
It's
back to me.
Yes.
At least for a little while. So I just wanted to say that there are opportunities in our association. Of course, most important, join our Facebook group and be a part of the community. And if you want to take responsibility for parts of the association, there's room for it. And just sharing ideas and contributing to our study platform and using the tools that we create is also helping out a lot to make us achieve our mission, which is giving students agency in higher education and helping students make changes to their everyday and higher education.